Mm.
Oh, good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning.
It's so nice to be sitting here with you on the same time zone in the same room. It hasn't
Mm.
happened thus far in this
Hmm.
series. So thank you for having me in your house.
You're welcome.
Jennifer, you've been part of our community for a good while, in different respects. And you've created this trilogy of incredible books, so called The Ritual of Taste. And so there's one, two, three volumes of The Ritual of Taste. And I think you probably know even more than that.
Yeah, there's actually a lot more recipes than that, but we just cost-wise, putting it together is another matter. So, do you want me to talk?
Sure, let's just keep
Because the green one and the red one actually go together. So there was a reason for that because people don't understand about Waiter. So the green one is giving you all the facts about the six tastes and about all the ingredients. Now, particularly about spices, which a lot of people don't realize. People think it's just flavor, but it's not. It's actually medicine because the spices really help your digestion. And one of the key factors in how you Waiter for disease. If you're not digesting food properly and if you're not eliminating food properly, then the waste products stay in the body and then, of course, creates the disease. So, spices actually help you, one, digest the food, two, assimilate the nutrition, and three, expel the waste products. So, to keep you healthy and energetic. And because people don't realize spices and herbs are actually a very strong antioxidants as well. So they're good. So the green book is to actually educate you on the six tastes and the ingredients and kitchen tips. And then the red book is actually really simple recipes. I think there's over 100 to prepare in the kitchen within the hour. When I started practicing, I could do 4 dishes within the hour and have a banquet within the hour. And it was to really suit people who are modern lifestyle, which is really busy, to prepare a variety of food. Now, Joe, my partner, did most of it, and this was over 30 years ago, because so many people were asking him about food. And then we'd take our food into the drug and alcohol where we worked at the time. And we'd get a queue of people to eat with us.
Mm.
And they suddenly realized how energetic they were in the afternoons. Instead of passing out at work and going slow mode, they felt really energetic. And then we had such amazing effect on people and feedback from people about how they felt
Yes.
energetically that we thought we must put this in a cookbook. So I basically supported Joe while he sat on the computer and typed it all out. So these are all been self-published and we sell from here. So we've cut out the middleman. There's no pictures in it, so you do actually have to study it. Uh,
You have to create the feast so that you can see
yeah,
it.
and the color is in the actual preparation. And because I've got a nursing background, I found, the teaspoon of this spice and a half a teaspoon. I was very measured, like I was a pharmacist preparing or a nurse preparing medicine for people. So you have to be very precise and not play around with it. People think, oh, turmeric would be really good. And people do this with their medication as well. This is really good for me, so I'll double it up. Well, you don't do that because you can destroy a dish with too much turmeric or too much asafoetida.
Mm.
Um, so it's very measured. And once you know the recipe, sure, you can play with it. But before then, and it's very, very easy. It's actually a guide. So people think, oh my God, spices, herbs, it's too complicated. It's not, because we say at the top of each recipe, assemble all ingredients. So you get everything ready. So you stay in the kitchen at the stove through the whole process.
Yeah.
Because once you start cooking the spices, which often start in the beginning, whether they're the wet ones and then the dry ones, if you suddenly disappear or go to a cupboard, you're going to burn your spices and then you destroy the whole dish. Plus, you can't burn oil, can be really not very good for your liver.
I think that's a beautiful thing that you've said because it's, with eating appropriately, stuff that's going to heal you, you've got to have your consciousness in that
Oh,
food.
absolutely.
And so if you're half distracted,
Mhm.
every other thing, and trying to watch a movie at the same time,
No, no, and because you also get to know about how far you need to cook the spices because you start to see the colors change and you start to smell. Ah, it's ready. I can smell the cumin. I can smell this coming out. And then it's ready to put the next vegetable. So you've already got your cut vegetables already to start. So it's step by step. Now, the youngest child that actually worked through the cookbook was a 7-year-old. So it's pretty idiot proof. And you just have to follow step by step and not be intimidated. And if you read everything, as I said, a 7-year-old's taken the cookbooks into the kitchen and managed.
Well, that is the impression that I've got from reading
So
it.
we want you to be successful. We don't want any failures. So we've made it so what we call idiot proof.
Well, the word that just kept coming to me reading all three of these books was fundamentals. You've got taken it right back down to the fundamentals,
Absolutely.
and you explained, especially in that green book, you've explained every ingredient and what it might be useful for, and it's so fundamental. So you really
back to basics. Mainly because I've had a history of seeing 50 years of seeing very sick people throughout my career, and it's totally unnecessary if they're eating, and it's just atrocious how we use our system as a garbage tip and throw anything in. And we don't realize that what walks today is what we ate yesterday. I mean, and we don't realize our state of mind. Like I had an example the other day. I had a lovely meal, but I'd been in the Gurdjieff movements in the morning, so I was really clear and bright and energetic. Went to a lunch. The lunch was fine, but then went back to the French cheese, beautiful blue vein trees after the meal. And within 10 minutes, I'm starting to feel quite sleepy. My body's starting to feel heavy. And I'm thinking, I didn't need to go back to that extra cheese. I was fine with the soup, the spinach pie, and the vegetables. I would have been fine with that, but I didn't. So people don't realize we actually need to listen to our own system. What do we taste like? How do we feel when we're eating food? And does it go down well? And post-digestive. If it doesn't, if you're feeling sleepy or uncomfortable in the gut or whatever, then that food's not right for you. There's something amiss. If it's not giving you energy and feeling light afterwards, there's something amiss. But also the state of mind.
Yeah, it's a real dialogue, isn't it, with the food that you're creating?
Yeah.
You're listening to that food and you're listening to yourself, and it's got to be conscious.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I just read
Sure.
everybody that's listening here the quote that you've used at the front of all three books, which I just think is the most important thing for us all to get. And the reason I think that it's so important for us all to get is because it might have been blue cheese, which is hardly a sin.
No, it was French too. It was yummy. It was so nice.
What can you do? But
I felt like after the Christmas dinner when everybody passes out.
Oh, yeah. But like truly, if you go into any service station getting petrol, is there one thing that you can eat in that shop?
Mm-mm.
No, I wouldn't. But
No.
others do. Others go in there clearly because there's a market, and they eat that. And so when you said that what you eat today, your is walking tomorrow, it's true. And I don't know how people can possibly do that.
Well, they can't, because the other thing is people get what we call in Ayurveda habituated to their taste. And that's why we often say to people, what do you taste like? And people just don't have the time, but also modern day time. We actually rush through the whole day and then we eat our big meal at night. Well, when I was growing up, I'm 69 this year, we used to stop at lunchtime and have a main meal. We don't allow that now in our modern lifestyle. So if you look at nature, first thing in the morning, it's always good to have something nourishing and warming, good protein to switch the brain on. Lunchtime between 10 and 2 is the time when our digestive is at our peak. That's when we actually should be absorbing the largest amount of food. And then in the evening, when everything settles, the birds sing and everything comes to rest, our system actually comes to rest. So to have our big main meal at night is the biggest mistake that this whole modern world has done to our health system. Is that we come home, we're exhausted, which is not good to eat on anyway, and eat the big bulky meals of pasta and meat and whatever, and then pass out. And then through the night, sleep is not just having rest, it's actually restoring our whole system in that quiet, in the rest. So if we're digesting all this gluggy food, the body doesn't have a time to heal itself. It's actually restoring itself at night. It's not just the mind having it quiet, having a break from itself. It's actually restoring itself. It's rewiring everything. And then you wake up, you're heavy, you've had weird dreams, you rush out the door, you don't go to the toilet and open your bowel, so you're carrying the waste products from the day before. You hit with a coffee, a muffin or whatever, and then you just keep repeating. So you become habituated. And the only thing After years, I don't talk to people about food now. If they have an Ayurvedic massage or a sauna, say, have you been eating well? No, not really. Do you want to stay for lunch? And they have the taste of the food and they go, wow. And then they call me the next day and say, Jennifer, I can't believe the big bowel movement I had. They have just been carrying around so much waste that they just didn't even realize. And this is, you don't know until you actually taste it.
Mhm.
I mean, there's been so many experiences which are so delightful. I had a 70th birthday party with pretty straight people. So we sort of did an Indian roast dinner. Like we had the soup but everything had spices through it. And everybody was quite noisy in the beginning. They all sat down. The first mouthful of food was this temple stew. And dead set, there was a humming sound right through the room. And I thought, wow, this food is really truthful. It actually shifted the energy within seconds
Yes.
of just having a mouthful. And this is well educated, traveled the world people.
Yes.
There was 80 of them,
Yeah.
but there was this humming sound like a bunch of bees
Yes.
when they started to have their first mouthful.
Was that in this house?
That was down at the yacht club.
Down at the yacht club. But I've got to say, coming for the second time now to Jennifer's house, this is a very conscious space, and there's a lot of consciousness in that food. So it's a transmission, isn't it? How
absolutely.
You know, food is the vehicle. And I was started to talk about this quote, which I love in the first three sections of your first three books, where it says it's an ancient Indian proverb. Who knows which clever person said it? You do not need medicine if your diet is right. And it is not medicine you need when your diet is wrong. Succinct.
Absolutely. And I think because people say you can be healthy or you can be sick. I mean, but if you're eating well, you can even manage your disease really well because we don't realize that the food is what is our life force.
Yes.
That is the life force supporting our life force. But it's not just on a physical level. I've had people who have been, okay, I've known them, and they've been what the medical world would see be psychotic. And I've had them for 4 days, bathed them, put them in a regular time frame of sleep, fed them 3 or 4 days, and within 4 days, their mind quiesces. They become very lucid again, and then they can tell us about what created this incredible distress in them.
Yes.
So that's what's important about regulation, but we need the time. But any professor in nutrition now says if you want to be healthy, you have to feed, you have to cook yourself. You have to prepare everything yourself. And so it's a lifestyle, it's an attitude. It certainly shows you an attitude to yourself, that you're prepared to nourish yourself, which is the key, and actually stop and give yourself the time to nourish yourself. So it is an attitude, and also your attitude in the kitchen, because I also involved with the Gurdjieff movements and Sufi. They actually say your attitude in the kitchen is your attitude to life. So if you're nourishing yourself and nourishing your community, there's nothing more wonderful than having a group of people over for dinner and eating this food, and they go, oh, wow, this is so good. And they walk out really energetic and clear because they've come in tired and bothersome and they, oh, woe is me, life is terrible. And they walk out feeling fantastic. Yes, I can deal with everything, And that food is not just fuel, it's actually a substance that can take you to a much higher level in yourself.
It's an elevation. And I really like that you mentioned not overloading the system in the evenings, there's so much on offer. You can go to a supermarket and it all looks good and it's like, oh, yum, 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 yum at night. And then you watch telly for 2 hours of murder mystery and,
Yes.
And then you go try it.
Well, that's another impression. I mean, all the impressions, that's food.
Yes.
We don't realize that all that mental stuff is actually impressions. It's actually another level of food. But I'd also like to state it's not just your physical health, it's your state of mind. And so many people are going on about mental health and whatever. But are we eating well? The high levels of sugar that people are having, the bad trans fats, etc., etc. So there is how you turn that around, an attitude that, as I said, the attitude people have of themselves is one probably the hardest things to change as a therapist. So often it's hands-on very much in the beginning of nurturing people and then giving them the food. And most people who eat this food will buy the cookbook.
Yes.
They just do. This is the way I have to eat for the rest of my life.
Huh.
So it's the spices. That's the key that's missing, our pungent taste. Most Australian diet is salt, sweet, and sour. We don't get into our bitters, even though our mothers told us to eat our greens when we were little. But the greens are so important for your digestion and for your blood. Vital.
Yes.
I was a nurse, and many a person who came in for blood clots, I said, what was your diet? Oh, it was just meat and veg. It was no vegetables, no greens. And the interesting thing with blood clots, when you clear of them all, you are put on a medication. I used to have to give them a sheet of all the foods they couldn't have. And guess what they all were? The bitter greens.
Yeah.
Because the bitter greens keep the blood nice and smooth and clean.
And your liver pumping and your gallbladder doing
gallbladder and helping the digestive juices, etc.
And thank you. There's so many bitter greens out there in the shape of a weed.
Absolutely. You can go and pick out in the backyard. The dandelions are fantastic at the moment, and the nettle and all of that. So
it's so precious, isn't it, that you can have that effect and that trajectory from, somebody coming in here in a bad state, then you helping them understand how they've reached there, nurturing them back to health, trying to bring them back into a stable situation, introducing them to real food, and then them buying the cookbook and then cooking for themselves is like a regaining of self-respect.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that you can manage your own health.
Yes.
You don't have to be dependent on outside authorities because you are the authority. I mean, just start to notice and pay attention to yourself of when you eat something. How does it go down? What's the post-digestive effect?
Yes.
And often people go, woe is me, I'm a terrible person. But if you look at it, it could be actually what you're eating. It's got nothing to do with you at all. And that's a sad thing because so many people are identified of this dysfunctional being, the mind, the heart, and they blame themselves, which is so Western and Protestant. But what you don't realize, it's the food.
Yes.
And it's eating at the wrong time of the day. That heaviness, eating on the run.
And that's a communal disorder because that's what
we used to eat together.
Yeah.
There's so much of what we used to eat together. And particularly in the West, I mean, if you look at Europe, it's a bit different, because they eat all together. But here, how many people have dinner parties anymore?
I know, isn't it sad?
Because it's too expensive or whatever. So, we're missing that. And food has always been a great bringing people together. We used to have the best meetings in drug and alcohol and that when we used to provide food for the meeting.
Yeah.
And suddenly we'd come up with some really innovative and more creative ideas.
Remarkable. I'm wondering if you'd like to read a little bit of something that you've written. I think it's always good to give people a flavour of your writing, a flavour of what you've
my partner's writing.
Oh.
I've just been very supportive of him. We trust this simple guide will encourage an interest in food preparation and cooking from ancient India. The traditional methods practiced for centuries form the basis of this guide and are known as Vedic cooking. We need to leave well alone the anxiety of diets and conflicting opinions about food in general. The joys of eating meals that are simple to prepare and based on sound principles will become an understanding of food guided by taste. Do not change your diet. Instead, begin by discovering the effect of taste that will occur within hours or days, if not immediately. The effect will be distinct, subtle, and gentle. Noticing reveals available energy felt as lightness of body, alertness, and well-being. Indeed, becoming intimate with these signals by way of attention might lead us to consider and discover their source.
Oh, gorgeous. I love that.
And health begins in the kitchen. Digestion actually starts with the aromas of cooking. So the salivary glands actually start working when you start cutting up the vegetables. So when we woof into a takeaway and we wonder why it doesn't settle, it's because our system's not even ready for it.
Yes, so true.
More? Do you want me to read more?
Sure, if you would like to.
Some say that the Vedic tradition of India has a practical history of some 50,000 years or more. I would say a lot more. Whatever the period, however, it is clear that this tradition was first written down about 5,000 years ago. This was just before the epic Mahabharata war involving everyone took place. This culture was guided by the fundamental insight that we and our environment are really one. So what's on the micro is on the macro. There's no separation. We're being cultivated in the Christian world to be separate. This was realized in practice with direct observation and a capacity to communicate with the intelligences and powers of nature. The principles they established illustrated the wisdom and understanding of their original vision. They concern a life of harmony for the health and well-being of all existence. Vedic cooking accords with these ancient principles and reflects the original observation and understanding that all is one in life appearing as many. Today, however, nature displays the consequences of collective ignorance everywhere, our uncertain struggle for health and happiness, an increasingly polluted environment and an uncertain food supply. All these suggest ignorance of the fundamentals of life. In other words, our activity has covered up our original insight and available knowledge. Many layers of notions have, excuse me, many layers of notions have accumulated and now present a bewildering and awesome spectacle. A return to fundamentals might simply mean taking note of the senses to discover that an unhealthy, diseased environment makes it impossible for human beings to be healthy and free from disease. So it's very, very simple. And that's the thing. We've made it incredibly complicated.
And I love that your partner refers to the remembering or uncovering. It's there. It's not like we have to.
No, it's there. Once the food touches that source, people just, I know this, and you do. It's just that it's covered up and it's been lost, or it's buried.
Temporarily.
It's always there. It's always there. It's just been covered up. I mean, same with massage. People come in really stressed and then they say to me at the end, oh, that was amazing, Jennifer. You did. It's always been there, guys. You just had a lot of noise, a lot of stress. If you tap into that quiet, it is always there.
Bringing everybody back. That's really what we do as therapists, I guess, bringing everybody back to their fundamental birthright, which is wellness. It's not something you have to buy.
No, and they can't sell it to you either. But it's amazing how many people are caught up in eating their ideas these days. And we really want, there's an old saying, come to your senses. And the senses will tell you, is this food right for me or not? And we need to trust that rather than this so-called marketing world that will make you feel vulnerable, for sure, particularly in the food area, but also in the beauty area, the wellness area, because they always show beautiful bodies and make you feel inadequate. And then you feel you need to buy it. And it's fundamentally marketing.
Marketing 101.
Absolutely. And it plays on us all the time. And we all get caught in it.
Yes.
Even no matter how much we're aware of it. But if you come back to the basics, it's a good start.
Yes, it's a good start. I'm thinking about my very beautiful 35-year-old daughter saying to me, Mum, have you heard about microneedling? I was just like, you're 35, darling. You've got the skin of a peach. Why do you need that? But the pressure is on, isn't it, to be as perfect, to optimize, basically.
Well, it's also to create a problem that you've got a problem.
Yes.
And we've got the solution. It's such the classic marketing. Manipulation.
Absolutely. And, I feel like real delivery of wellness, real delivery of bringing people back to their inherent connections and sense of self is giving people the tools. We need the tools to operate our own life, and we don't really teach those very well from the beginning.
No.
In fact, we're taking away a lot of those tools as we speak. Wow. Well, they're beautiful books. I'm just in love with them. I'm really looking forward, now that I'm back from traveling, to sitting down and cooking.
Yes. So the red book, as I said, you'd probably get 4 or 5 dishes within the hour. But the orange book is when you've got a little bit more time. And we're encouraging people, if they're really busy in their lifestyle, that on a Sunday you prepare certain things. So the orange book is where there's a little bit more setting up for the larder, like chickpea rissoles. So you create the mixture. And then it can stay in the fridge all week. And when you're hungry or you're coming home, you just pull them out and then you cook them on the spot.
Perfect.
Dolmades, vine leaves.
That's also really interesting about what you've done, because you're calling it the Vedic cooking and it's not Ayurvedic. And
Vedic actually went right around the globe.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about
The
that?
Agni fire ceremony, the Agni Vedic temples you actually find all around the planet.
Okay.
And there's a great book, if I've just nearly finished it, by William Dalrymple on the Golden Road, ancient India and how it transformed the world. They've been influencing the world since the second century, right through. So they were mainly trading. India was trading very much through to Egypt, around to that side, and then across up to China and Asia before the 1000.
Yes.
And then the influence of the Indians on the Arabs, that's when the Europeans then through Spain and that area started to, basically the Renaissance was influenced by the Arabs, but the Arabs got it all from the Indians.
Yeah.
And there are Vedic temples all around the planet.
Isn't that interesting? And
India was an amazing culture. And unfortunately, as William Dalrymple, who gave a talk a couple of months ago when he was selling his book, he came out, the British totally cut off this connection about India and kept saying China was the one with the influence. But actually, India has influenced medicine, philosophy, architecture, maths. The zero came from India. And then if you really want to go through the history and the archaeological, I mean, this guy's got about that many pages of his references, is that India was basically right across the planet in its influence. And we, as white people, I'm sorry to say, but anyone that's slightly darker in our skin, we just tend to negate as having any source. But the Indians have got an amazing amount of knowledge.
Aren't we lucky that so much of it has been written and still survives?
Well, a lot of the Westerners are actually keeping it alive, which is contrary to.
Which just brings us back to that whole concept of unity, like we come from source, we come, all of us, and the sooner that we understand that, being 22% Arabic blood and 36% Aboriginal and 10% white.
It's not the colour.
It's not the colour. It's the blood, and the blood came from the very beginning. So, there's now, having had all the journeys that we've had and all the cultures that we've created, there's so many lessons to bring together to support this planet right now. There's an urgency to it all. And
that's the beauty about Ayurveda, because it connects with the environment, because the understanding is what's on the micro is also the same in the macro. And we need a healthy environment if we need a good food source. Otherwise, humanity doesn't survive. So us humans need to look after our environment, our food source, the water, the air.
It's reciprocal. You do not get well in a void.
No, that's right. So there's a real relationship. And I remember a Hopi Indian saying to people in America about climate crisis and the whole thing. He said, well, really what the problem is, it's not the climate, it's our relationship to nature, because we just ignore it. We want to rape and pillage it and take things from it, and for resources. We're not into nurturing this, because the land and is our big mother, and we need to nurture her to be nourished ourselves. So that really opens up to a totally different way of seeing and looking, and we can't just use it as a marketplace to make money out of.
No.
We have to take care.
you'd think it'd be obvious, but I think that, the point has been made even this morning by Daniel Four talking about all of this, that the ecological crisis that we find ourselves in can be all attributed to behavioral dysfunction because people are so unwell.
Yeah.
So if we deal with it on that level, perhaps we can get somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And,
But that's the disconnect.
yeah,
That people are not near nature, or they don't, they get up and work in the dark and come home in the dark, and they never see the sun, and they never have time to eat, and they're under fluorescent lights, and they're sitting in front of a computer all day, and yeah, they don't connect with nature. They don't even put their feet on the ground at any stage. So
may it be incredibly temporary, all of this.
yeah,
I hope.
so I mean, you can't sort of put it totally on the individual when we're living in a system that
Goodness
keeps
no.
pushing this way of surviving, and to step off it is really difficult. I mean, I stepped away from the mainstream medical world in 2010, but I'd been practicing Ayurveda since 94, but I financially I couldn't survive in it. So you still have to, you're living in a system that makes things very expensive. So you're bound financially to work in the areas where you have to work in. You can't necessarily live in your passions, or you do it part-time. But eventually, sadly, I had family that passed, so I got extra estate money so I could survive and move out of the system in 2010. But it took, what, 16 years
Okay.
of working part-time to keep supporting
Yeah.
what my passions were.
Yes.
So yes, it's not easy to make that shift. I mean, people do, but it's not easy.
It's not easy, and full accolade to our community of practitioners and therapists who, despite the limited income structure that's available to us as natural therapists, as wellness practitioners, have kept going.
Well, yeah, and then your status because you're a renter. It's a laughable, but that's the more you work in this area, but you actually see how entrenched other people are in the system, and it's good to be able to have at least one step back a bit.
Yes, it is. That's why our community needs our community.
Yeah.
Every community needs every community. But
Yeah.
that's how we can become strong and understand that this is a shared reality, and decrease the shame. Like, we live in a country, don't we, that only 4 years ago, was it, that they withdrew the private health status, private health rebates for 16 of our therapies, of our traditional complementary integrative health therapies. They're just about to reinstate 7, I've heard. But where are the other 9? It's really the continuing
politics.
Yeah, politics, but also that the way that it's played is to deconstruct and demean and really put down anybody that works in this profession as not equal to, and dabbling, or as my accountant said, you should make this your garage hobby.
Yes, I've got an accountant like that too.
Right, I should make
What are you giving that away for nothing, Jennifer? Why are you doing?
And then I sat down actually with that particular accountant, and I just made him an incredible organic lunch, organic vegetables, and we were looking out of my window at the harbour. And my 2 cats were there, and my dog just peaceful as anything. And my kids are about to come home from school, whom I love. And, I was planning to catch up with friends for a dinner party that night. And I explained all of this to him. And I said, and I really love when I get up in the morning and, I might not be getting tangible money, but boy, am I getting a lot.
You got the wealth on another level.
Absolutely. And then I looked over and he was crying. And, it really triggered him. Anyway,
absolutely.
He's since left his profession, and he's
well, my accountant's out in Maruta on a farm now, but he's still working, but he's got his farm.
Anyway, what makes us humans tick? I think we need all of us doing what we do well, and let's just keep working at it. I'm going to just see if Martine has anything that she'd like to say there before we.
Yes, thank you so much, Jennifer. That was so important. I mean, to go back to the fundamentals of food is so crucial because we went so far away from that. And I mean, Chinese medicine, it's very similar. Like, the Chinese also very understandable about the cycle of the energy. And so they say, like in the West also, they say eat breakfast like a king, and then eat lunch as a noble, and then eat dinner as a poor, right?
Yeah, as a
And
pauper.
I had a wonderful patient. He came in, he was always been healthy. He's in mid 50s, never been sick. And all of a sudden he had all these weird symptoms. And I said, since when you had this? He said, oh, I expanded my business. And then, so I said, what's the major change after that? He said, well, now I skip breakfast and then I can't eat much lunch. And then I come home and his beautiful Italian wife cook him a huge dinner, pasta and meat and things.
Uh,
And so he couldn't digest anything. He couldn't rest properly. He woke
no,
up, he's tired, right? And he's caught
then he
in the
has sleeping
cycle.
problems.
That's right. And so the only thing we changed was to organize that you had some breakfast, big meal at lunch, and a soup at night.
Yes,
And
yes.
all his symptoms disappeared.
Yeah, that's right. So what Mama was cooking at night time, he takes to work at lunchtime.
That's right. So it was just a bit of organization that just
Yeah.
reset his cycle. And then he was fine. So it's so important. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. I'm looking forward to explore your books
Yeah.
because I love spices and I use them, but it'd be nice to know a little bit more detail about it. So thank you so much for all your
Yeah.
work. It's
I can't eat
phenomenal.
food without spices now because the food just sits in the belly, like boom.
Yes, yes.
Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Mm. The spices really
Yeah.
make you feel lighter. So
Yeah, I mean, I come from south of France, and they use a lot of herbs, right? Like
yes,
thyme and
yes,
rosemary and garlic, and so I'm always been used to use some kind of spice, and it's beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
So thank
already
you.
converted then.
Yes, I'm converted.
Yes.
I have
Thank you.
that
Thank you.
sense that, as you speak, I was just having the apparition of what we should do as Soul Advisor, bringing community together for meals all around the globe.
Yeah,
That'd
that'd
be
be
lovely, wouldn't it?
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
Yes.
I think this is what we need to do. How do we bring real community? You always have
Yeah.
food. Yeah,
Food just brings so many people together.
yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
And
And in
And
Europe,
energetically, I mean,
yeah.
I remember this birthday party for my father at 70, and they're all very straight, business people and that. And the effect, even when I saw them 20 years later, they said, I still remember that lunch.
That's right.
And it's like you just saw this energy shift. And because they weren't really listening to each other in the beginning, because they were all rah, 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 rah. And then they sat down and there were sort of numerous conversations at different tables because there was about 80 people there. So I think we had about 10 tables. And then when the food started, everything got quieter. And they actually started to listen to each other. And I'm thinking, isn't this good? It's even good for communication.
Yeah.
I think we must be in a better world and everybody would actually get on better as soon as the food hits the tummy.
Yeah.
The sound changed in the room
Mm.
and the way of relating shifted. And I thought, wow, this is amazing.
Across the world, let's ban the TV dinner and bring back real eating, shall we?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I just have really enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to enjoy the cooking, and I'm enjoying the new image that's evolving in my brain right now around eating together as a community of Soul Advisor practitioners. So, the next thing that will be happening with Jennifer is she's going to teach us how to cook bread online, which is pretty exciting. So that'll be in the next month or two. And
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
it's really yummy bread, Martine. Last time I managed to walk away with a little bit of it, and I sat there nibbling for the next few days. I didn't share it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Looking forward to this.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you, Jennifer.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. Is there anything else you'd like to say as a way to finish?
Oh, gosh. I'll just start rambling.
It's beautiful. Love the ramble.
Bon
No,
appetit.
I
It's
just
bon
find it
appetit.
being because of nursing and psychology. I was a psychologist and that whole bit for many years. And what I found was food was the key. We can get into really sophisticated therapies and I found that direct nourishing people is what they need, like the massages and the sound connects people back to themselves. And
Yeah.
then a warming tea, and then something to eat, and they go, and you bring them back to themselves,
Yes.
back home. That's what I like.
Yeah.
And that's the starting point, because they've been out on the edges trembling. So, yeah. And that's all I can do. Really, I can
that
just
all?
set the scene and set them in a nice space. And then they go out and that's their life. You know, they decide what they do, whatever, but it's to bring them back to home.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a
I mean, it's
beautiful.
like a house, isn't it? When you build a house, the foundation is the most important. So that's where
Absolutely.
we come from. Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, you have to get that right. And we've sort of forgotten all
Yeah.
those fundamentals because we just don't think we've got the time for it, or, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
we've got, you know, more important things to do. But really, that's the most important thing before we take
Yeah.
off to everything else. Mhm.
And
Totally.
that is joy. And, you know, unless we're operating with joy and beauty in our lives, well, what are we doing?
Exactly. We're missing
Yeah.
a whole wonderful opportunity
Yeah.
of what this life's about.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for firmly focusing us back on the fundamentals.
You're welcome.
It's a beautiful thing that you're doing, and you too, Martine. And thank you so
Thank
much
you so
Lovely
for
to meet you, Martine.
joining us.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.